I'm going to have some of my colleagues introduce themselves. They're joining us tonight, and you might see them in the chat box, or they might pop in and answer a question. Just know that they're safe and they're with us at NDSU Extension. And so I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce yourself. Dr. Hoffman, you want to kick us off?
Good evening. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Travis Hoffman, have the opportunity to serve as the Extension Sheep Specialist for both North Dakota State University and the University of Minnesota. Thanks, Will, for joining us.
Thank you, Travis. And Dean, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Dean Ockrey, and I'm a 4-H specialist at the Center for 4-H at NDSU in Fargo.
Thank you, Dean. And Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So my name is Sarah Mcnaughton. I'm the 4-H Youth Development Extension Agent in Cass County, North Dakota. So the city is Fargo.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I guess I should introduce myself. My name's Leanne Scarpay. I am also in Fargo, and I oversee the 4-H Animal Science program. And we have a pretty cool series here. So I'm going to leave this up for just a little bit before we kind of pull off. I am going to put the connection for our Facebook in the chat box, so you can connect with us if you haven't already. And if you want to sign up for any of these other wonderful talks and discussions, you can sign up through our Facebook. You can go to the events, and all of them are listed there. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to Will and let him introduce us. Thank you, Will, so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely, Leanne. I appreciate everything you've done to get it coordinated, and to Sarah for reaching out to me. Happy to be here. So can you guys hear me all right?
We sure can.
Okay, good. Well, let me know if anything changes there and I can stop and backtrack. But I think this is a great opportunity for 4-Hers to learn about I guess the last time I was talking to my computer would have been COM 110 when I took that online and in college. So it brings back great memories when I had to record my speeches looking at my computer like this. So anyway, I'll get right into it. My name's Will Bollum. I'm originally from Northfield, Minnesota. I'm currently the field editor for the Western Ag Reporter, covering North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota. On the side, I clip cattle, prepare them for shows and sales all across the country. And I guess that's kind of where my career in agriculture started. So I began by kind of fitting cattle, clipping when I was showing my own cattle growing up in middle school and high school, having the role that I'm in now at the Western Ag Reporter. So tonight I'm going to kind of take you through the steps and how I kind of got to where I am today, and kind of what jobs I did along the way, and what kind of stepping stones I had along the way. And so I guess the one point that I want to convey and want to drive home today is that a positive attitude and a strong work ethic can go a very long way. So a lot of the time, the connections that you might not expect, that's where your opportunities come from. A lot of times the loose ties that you make are where the biggest changes in your life can come from. So from there, I guess I'll just jump into the background of myself. Like I said, Northfield, Minnesota is my hometown. That's in southeastern. Avid in 4-H and FFA. I was very involved showing cattle and showing pigs, and then worked into livestock judging, and really enjoyed doing that as well. Had the opportunity to judge on a state level and then on a national level for FFA as well. So a lot of those opportunities opened the doors to where I am today. I mean, from a young age, I really just lived and breathed livestock, and it kind of started off, like I said, showing my own cattle, but especially at the Minnesota State Fair, the 4-H show is very competitive, and when you're that age, and one of the rules in Minnesota 4-H is that you have to be a 4-Her to fit, and the happening is that I got a lot of practice because a lot of friends needed some help, and I was able to kind of help out along the way, and wasn't doing it for money at first. Wasn't just doing it because I loved it, and helping other 4-Hers and friends get their animals ready. That kind of rolled into kind of in my high school years. I got the chance to work at a few places locally, doing some clipping, preparing cattle for shows and for sales. And as I just kind of got more comfortable, and people enjoyed my clipping and preparation, then it kind of kept snowballing, and I found more opportunities opened up along the way. So after graduating high school, I found myself at NDSU. I went for animal science and ended up through agricultural economics. I was very involved on campus, and that's one thing I would like to highlight, I guess, is the involvement on campus can open up a lot of connections down the road. I was involved in Alpha Gamma Rho fraternity, saddle and sirloin, and ag ambassadors, and I held exec positions in each of those, and very much enjoyed all those opportunities. A lot of those opened up doors for internships and for jobs, and just would encourage anyone who's thinking about going to a university or to college to just be involved as possible, and even through high school and in FFA and in 4-H, take those opportunities that present themselves. And even if it might not seem like the biggest opportunity at the time, it certainly opens doors down the road that you might not expect. So as I got into college, it didn't take long. Within the first 2 weeks of college, I got a call from a guy I didn't really know all that well, but I kind of grew up around him. He was a senior at NDSU, and I was a freshman. He gave me a call. He said, "Hey, we've got some heifers that need to get clipped. They need to get pictured for a sale. Would you be willing to help us out?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure can." And so finished up with class for the day, and then went to my freshman dorm and grabbed my clipper box and grabbed my boots and went and sat outside and waited for him to pick me up. And anyway, this guy, he brought me to Jungle Shorthorn Farm, which is where I worked all through my college years. As soon as I got there, there was 4 or 5 other guys there, all seniors, and started clipping on a heifer and getting her ready to picture. And one thing led to the other, and I've basically been working there ever since. I moved from just kind of a ranch hand and a clipper, and to the next year when all those guys graduated, I was in charge of the show barn and getting help lined up. And on from there, I ended up being in charge of all the show cattle and all of the sale cattle in terms of preparation and in terms of getting them ready for their sales. And just to tell you a little bit about the operation at Jungle Shorthorns, they've got 2 annual sales, fall female sale and the spring bull sale. And they also take the trip to Denver for the Northwestern Stock Show, which you guys might be familiar with. And so those are kind of the 3 big events of the year. And so by the time it's all said and done, there's an opportunity to clip a few hundred cattle on an annual basis. And I've been helping them out for the last 7 years. And so I think that adds up to over 1,225 cattle that I've clipped there over the years. So who would have thought that the one day just getting picked up outside my freshman dorm led me to do that, I guess. So it's pretty cool that those opportunities kind of open themselves up, and it all kind of ties back to when I was in high school and when I was fitting and clipping for people. It's just you kind of one thing leads to the next. And on that same note, one of those acquaintances that I met through my years at Jungles gave me the opportunity to go to Australia down the road. And the way it ended up happening, this friend of mine, he went to Australia for an internship position for 6 months, kind of a exchange, and got to know quite a few families over there. And the next year, he asked me if I'd be interested in going to Australia to clip on some cattle. And I said, well, yeah, of course. I mean, he didn't even have to tell me what they were paying me or anything. And it was just immediate and initial. He got me in touch with the right people. And I guess this turned me from a local fitter and clipper to international businessman. So pretty excited about that. And so I got in touch with these folks from Australia, got it figured out where I was going to go for about 3 weeks. And so it ended up that I flew over there. It's a quick 16-hour flight. Got to Australia and out to their ranch, and just thought to myself, wow, I mean, things are different here. The cattle are pretty similar, but just the way they do things are different. The way that we show cattle and the way that we basically pamper our cattle and our show cattle, it's much different than what they do over there. So I was solely in charge of getting 12 cattle ready for their biggest national show. This show would kind of be on the same level as Denver, Northwestern Stock Show, but it's even bigger than that. There's several thousand head of cattle that go there. And anyway, they were bringing these 12, and I was there by myself to get them ready. And so I get each of them in and wash them and dry them, and then start to clip and get a couple done each day. And granted, it's probably about 100 degrees Fahrenheit at the time, and there's tons of flies there and everything else. But I mean, it was a great experience regardless. And soon enough, we get to the next step, which would be going into the show itself. And so we get all these cattle clipped and get the trailer loaded, and it's a 5-hour drive to get into Sydney, Australia, where the show is. And the next thing we know, it's a 12-day long show, and every single day you're there. The only time you get to sit down is when you're going to bed. Otherwise, you're on your feet. So it's a tough, it's a lot of walking, a lot of work, but it's a rewarding experience. And basically, on a normal day of the show, the work would be similar to what we do here. It would be waking up, getting the cattle fed, cleaning out the bedding in the stalls and things like that, and then washing the cattle and blowing the cattle dry, and then doing some clipping. Depending on the day, they show on certain days, and so get them ready for the show as well, using the same kind of adhesives and paint and clipping and things like that we use over here as well, the same products. The only difference is that a can of adhesive over here costs about $12. Over there, it costs about $50. So they're a little bit more sparse with their use, but overall, it's the same thing, and on a lesser scale, but they really appreciate having Americans there, because our experience, even at my age, when I was a junior in college, when I went there, I was certainly on a different level than most of them, just because of how they were raised and what it's like there. So another thing that's pretty unique about the show, you have a row of cattle, and then at the end of the row is kind of this big box, is how I can describe it, and they call it a cubby, but it's about 10 feet by 10 feet, and it's got 2 levels on it. The bottom level is where you store kind of your equipment and any things you might want to lock up. And then the top level has a ladder to it, and that's where you sleep for the entire 12 days. So you're sleeping in the barns, and if anything needs attention with the cattle, you can go right there in the middle of the night if you need to. But by the end of it, everything kind of smells like a barn. So it's you got to make sure of that when you come back. But overall, just a tremendous opportunity and a great way to build connections overseas. I mean, like I said, even if they were not paying me, I still would have done it. But it was just a great opportunity to build those relationships. And to this day, I keep those relationships open. And there's sales that happen here in the United States, and people from Australia are interested, and they see the things online. They often do international business, and they order semen or order embryos on cattle and get them shipped across the Pacific. So that's been a valuable part of it as well. And keeping in touch with them, when I got back from my first trip to Australia, I wasn't back for a month, and they already asked if I could come back the next year. So I was happy to, and I ended up going a second time and knew the ropes a little bit more the second time. But anyway, it was a great opportunity and a great experience. You learn a lot about how they do things different and bring those things back here to our operations. There's just a lot of knowledge to be learned from interacting with new people and new ways of life. So when I came back from my second time in Australia, that would have been my senior year at NDSU. I was on the hunt for a job, for a full-time position. So I was asking around and looking online at job websites, job postings, and had some interviews and had some offers that I put out. And out of the blue, I received a call from Derek Jungles, the owner and operator of Jungle Shorthorn Farm, where I had been working through college. And he said that he passed my name on to someone and they had an interesting job opportunity. And that ended up being my job with the Western Ag Reporter. So I ended up interviewing and got the job, got accepted, and secured the job, but 1 week before I graduated, so just in the nick of time. And then 1 week after I graduated is when I started. So a very quick turnaround, but I really was grateful for the opportunity. And it's one of those things that you never know where your next opportunity is going to come from. Keeping positive relationships with your employer and with your coworkers, with your acquaintances and friends is very important. And I wouldn't have been recommended if Derek didn't think that I would have been a good fit for the role. So I took that opportunity and I jumped right in right away. So with the Western Ag Reporter, I work directly with purebred livestock producers to help them market their cattle and promote their operation. So my primary role is to sell advertising in our newspaper and our website. And then I also get to travel to these ranches and work on sale day ringside as a ringman, bid spotter in general. So just a quick background on the Western Ag Reporter for everyone. You might not be familiar, but obviously we've got people here from all over the United States, which is great. And so the Western Ag Reporter is a kind of a regional publication. We're based in Billings, Montana, and this is our 80th year in publication. So we're very proud of that. And we send out the paper once a week on Thursdays, and we have an annual herd reference edition published once a year as well. And so our paper covers the states in the northwestern United States for the most part. We've got 15 people on staff. 10 of those are in the office in Billings, and 4 work remotely. So we cover the states of Montana, and then I cover North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. Another field editor covers Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. And then our last field editor covers Idaho, Washington, California, Oregon, and Utah. And so our paper covers the topics related to agriculture. Obviously, we're called the Western Ag Reporter. And so topics like ranching, raising cattle, horses, livestock, ag policy, and all other ag-related news. And we just launched a brand new website and mobile app as well. So we're very excited about that. Go ahead and check it out if you're interested. It's got all the breaking news. You can check it right on your phone, and it's available on Apple and on Android. One other very cool feature we're excited about is that you can click on an article and press play, and then you can listen to it like a podcast or like an audio file. So if you're on the go like I am, you can just press play. It's a great way to stay current with your news. And then I want to offer everyone who's here listening a free subscription to the paper. So my email, I'll put it in the chat box here. Feel free to send me your address, and I'd be happy to send you the paper for a few months to check it out. You'll see my face in there, a couple of the other guys, and keep current with your agricultural news that way, and check it out. Anyway, kind of getting back to my actual job itself. my typical day can be very, very different. It kind of depends on the time of year, but this time of year is a little bit slower. Our busiest season is January through April, and that's when most of the bull sales and production sales are in this region of the world. So this time of year, since it's a little bit slower, I work from home. I connect with customers and prospective customers to line up their advertising plan for their upcoming sales. So that includes a lot of calls and emails. And then we have a conversation back and forth about what their goals are, what would work best for their operation. And so takes a bit of creativity on my end to propose different budgets and options. There's different sizes of ads. You can do color, black and white. You can do website advertising or email advertising. And basically every operation wants something a little bit different. So in our busy season, January through April, I'll be on the road maybe 90% of the time. On an annual basis, I'll put on about 50,000 miles traveling North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, visiting ranches in the summer and visiting the ranches on their sale day in the spring as well. Going to sales is certainly my favorite part of the job. It gives me an opportunity to connect with quite a few new people and broaden those networks that I have and build relationships. And like I've mentioned a couple times now, you never know where those relationships will lead. And so it's important to always put your best foot forward and build these positive relationships with as many people as you can through your travels and every day. So when I do go to a sale, I will travel there either the morning of or the night before. And so I'll, depending on the distance, I guess, I typically will just kind of get up in the morning, check my emails and make any phone calls that I need to make. I'm responsible for making sure that all the ads come in on time from all the advertisers. And so there's a lot of deadlines to stay on top of. And after that, I kind of review the sale catalog for the day if I haven't done that already. Or I'll look forward to the next day or the day after, review that sale catalog as well, get familiar with the offering. And that's an important part of my job as well. And I'll explain that a little bit later. And so then after that, I'm on my way to the sale. I try to get there about 3 hours before the sale starts, just to have enough time to kind of visit with the owner, visit with the folks around the sale. And then next I go through the offering and jot some notes down about each lot. And so going through the catalog and jotting down some notes about each lot on sale day is important. As I travel to a lot of sales, many people can't travel to the sales themselves, so they have cattle to feed at home, or they get snowed in, or they don't want to travel, especially now in the pandemic. I mean, there's certain people that don't necessarily have the opportunity to go out, and they'd rather be at home. And so people will call me as a resource to evaluate the cattle at the sale that day, and to potentially bid on cattle on their behalf. And so I've got to be very familiar with the cattle and very cordial and polite over the phone and talk to people professionally at all times. And so I'll often field 3 to 5, 10 calls on sale day morning from people asking for second opinions on these cattle that they're interested in buying. And so after I get through the cattle, I'll take some notes down, make any calls that I need to make. I also take some photos at the sale. Those get put in the newspaper or on our website. And so I've got to bring my camera and just kind of capture what's going on there, what it's like that day, if it's a nice sunny day or if it's storming, or, if there's a lot of people there or which people are there. It just makes the article a little bit more interesting when I do get to posting that after the sale. And so next, I guess I'll kind of sit down and get some lunch and visit with some people as well. It's really important to visit with people. And after that, when the sale is about to start, is when the real fun begins. So I work ringside at the sale, and so for those of you who might not have seen a sale or might not know what it's exactly like, the auctioneer sells the animals, and then I stand in front of the crowd and spot the bids for him and let him know that people are bidding. And so I'll have about one section of the bleachers usually, and that's plenty for me to look at. And then I'll see if anyone's bidding and communicate that to the auctioneer. And so anyone who's been to an auction, it's a very fast-paced and a very electric environment. And so you've got to be very quick, and you've got to be loud and clear to communicate exactly what's happening, who's bidding, and what's going on. And as everyone knows, I mean, it's a fast-paced thing, so you can't delay a second. You got to be very alert, and it takes some practice. So I think this is probably one of the most challenging parts of my job, and it's the thing that took the most time to get comfortable with. I was able to shadow a few ringmen who work for our company in different regions and learn their tips, their tricks, and what to do. It certainly doesn't happen overnight that you learn it, and I learn something new every time I do it. So it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge, and it's become certainly my favorite part of the job. And with time, I mean, I've probably worked at hundreds of different sales. I'm certainly more comfortable now than I was when I began. And so the nerves are still there to some extent, but you can work through them and just kind of keep going and keep learning every time you get to do it. So that's one of the highlights of my job. And just kind of keeping going through the sale day process. As I'm working ringside, I'll be recording the sale prices and the buyer numbers on my catalog or on the sale order. And the reason that I do that is that at the end I have to post a sale report. And so I need to have all those prices and bidder numbers in order to fill out the sale report at the end. And at the same time, there's a lot going on here. So at the same time, if I need to be on the phone with anyone to bid for them, like I explained earlier, they have me there in their place. I will do that at the same time. Often there's enough ringmen where I can step to the side, another ringman can step in my place, and I can be on the phone placing bids. And that's a stressful part, but also a fun part. And in my experience, I've been on the phone up to $45,000 bids before, and that's a lot of money on the line. So you got to be sharp and make sure if they say they want to bid that you do it, and if they say they don't want to bid, then you absolutely don't, because a lot could go wrong there if you say the wrong thing. So staying sharp is very important. And once all the commotion and excitement is done with the sale, and once the last lot is through the ring, the work is not done yet. We're getting closer, but next you work on the sale averages and average out the certain groups of cattle, so all the bulls or all the females, whatever it might be, and get the averages from there, and then list the top 5 high sellers as well. And that sale report gets put into the newspaper the following week, and it goes live on our website and our mobile app instantly. So another perk to downloading the mobile app is getting instant sale reports for those who are interested.
Some pretty awesome
So let's
stuff.
see.
I think we just got a really cool question. I don't know if you want to answer that one yet. So Caden,
okay.
He says, with being interested in animal science or in similar fields as you are and going to college in animal science, so he's currently in an animal science degree, what classes in college would you recommend or think might benefit them the most?
Great question, Caden. The question was, in the same field that I'm in, going to college for animal science, what classes do you recommend and would benefit the most? So great question, Caden. I guess the class that was most applicable through my collegiate time would have been our livestock marketing class with Skip Anderson. Some of you are familiar with him. He had guest speakers come in from all different sorts of livestock marketing places and different types of livestock marketing. I'd say that would have been the most important. Otherwise, the second would have been the livestock evaluation class, or if you had the opportunity to be on a livestock evaluation team, because that's also a very important part of my job. And being a reliable resource for honest evaluation of livestock is one of the most critical parts of my job as well. So great question, Caden. I think those would kind of be the two classes that I find most applicable. But in general, there's a lot of things from a lot of different classes that apply, and visiting with ranchers on a daily basis, just being able to understand what they have going on from certain parts of the year, or whether it's breeding season, or whether they're making hay, or whether they'll be chopping silage, whatever it might be. You need to be aware of those kind of things. And anyway, you learn a lot of things as you go as well. So real life 101 is an important class too. So any other questions at all so far? I guess feel free to just type them in the chat box. I've gone through quite a few things quickly, but if you do have any questions, just let me know.
Will, so I know from following your Instagram, you got to be present for a very exciting moment in the cattle industry of the highest priced bull that's been ever sold. Do you want to share a little bit about what it was like getting to be at that sale? I think it was at Angus or Schaefer Angus or somewhere.
Yep. No, absolutely. So funny thing is, that's the next thing on my agenda. So good question. That was, easily one of the most exciting times through my job. So basically, I was at Schaff Angus Valley in North Dakota, and this would have been in their 2019 sale. They sold a bull called SAV America, and he was the record high selling bull of any breed of cattle at any point in time in history. And he sold for $1.125 million. And it was absolutely nuts, really. And anyway, I knew he was going to be a high seller. There was a lot of talk about it beforehand. And like Sarah mentioned, I have an Instagram and social media, Facebook and Twitter as well, at Western Ag Will. If you want to follow me, feel free. But anyway, I took this video of the bull selling, and in St. Anthony, North Dakota, the cell service isn't very good. And so I tried to post this video, and I didn't know if it sent or not. And it ended up going through. And then about 6 hours later, I mean, this is one of the largest sales. This is certainly the largest sale of my year. By the time the sale was done, I go outside to get some cell reception again, and my phone tells me that I've got 1 million views on my video, and I couldn't believe it. And so ended up racking up somewhere near 5 million views on this video that I posted, and really helped out the social media followers. So anyway, it was pretty interesting and pretty cool to see. And I've really got to know Kelly Schaff very well. Before then and since then, I've gotten to know him very well, and just a real tremendous operation, and certainly one of the highlights of my experiences so far. So I'll keep going a little bit.
Please do. And here I thought racehorses were the only ones that sold for that. That is so cool.
Yeah, no, it was very crazy. Very crazy. And the gentleman who bought him was on Trump's Ag Advisory Committee. He was the chairman of Trump's Ag Advisory Committee, Charles Herbster of Nebraska. So very cool as well. And I guess I'll share one other little story. So Charles came back to the sale last year, so 2020, and he walked up. I was going through the bulls before the sale started, and I was one pen over, and I certainly recognized him. And he said, "Well, I was meeting with President Trump yesterday. I got on my plane and I came right here. And so now I'm here today with you, Kelly." And he was talking to Kelly Shop. So anyway, that was kind of interesting. Very cool. So, but I guess the next points I want to talk about is kind of job requirements, some skills that would be useful in this job. And first and foremost, I would recommend that someone is outgoing and social, I guess is how I put it. Just visiting with customers, owners, potential customers, and other sales staff. You just need to be comfortable going up and talking to somebody new and introducing yourself. There's a lot of that with this job, and very comfortable talking to somebody new is very important as well. So just outgoing and social personality. Positive and upbeat is very important as well. So whether the market's going up or the market's going down, there's still going to be production sales. So positivity is a big part of this industry as well. So and next, I guess the next job requirement that I kind of list is staying organized. There's a lot of deadlines and a lot of information to keep straight. So at any point in time, there could be 15 or 20 ads that you need to get by a certain deadline, and that deadline comes every single week. And so my first year was certainly a learning experience, but year 2 and now rounding into year 3, it's hopefully a little bit better, but these ranchers that I'm working with certainly have enough on their plate alone. And so staying in touch with them about the deadlines is very important, and being on top of it yourself is also important. So organization is very, very important. And next, I'd say persistence and dedication are very important. The long hours of this job are through the sales season and through the busy season. It gets to be some long days. Certainly driving anywhere from a couple hours a day up to 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I mean, it certainly gets to be long, so you have to be dedicated and persistent and keep going through it. And working in sales, a lot of times you'll hear no's a lot more often than you'll hear yeses. And so persistence is very important as well, and not to get discouraged. So and finally, staying connected with people is very important as well. Having a network or starting a network of people is very important. A lot of these sales I go to, the producers see it as a benefit to have me there, and see it as a benefit when I can put someone in touch with them about a certain bull or a certain heifer or whatever it might be. So having those connections are very important to this job, and an added benefit certainly. So there is no specific degree required for this job. A college degree would be preferred, but I don't necessarily think it's mandatory. And then just having the experience and the connections with the purebred seed stock industry helps a lot as well. So having the know-how about how the seed stock industry works is important. And I didn't grow up on a large seed stock operation, but working at Jungle Shorthorn Farm got me in touch with how that world works, and got me in touch with those people. So we do not have an internship program, but anyone who's interested, I'd be more than happy to visit with them. People are on here from all over, which is great. But if you're in the area, I'd be happy to bring you along to a sale and show you what it's like, a day in the life. If you're interested in learning more about the job or shadowing me, just send me an email or send me a message on social media or a phone call, whatever it might be. So let's see. Oh, okay. So Caden asked a question here. Would it require a bachelor's degree, or would junior college work? And I certainly think that a junior college degree would work just fine. I am familiar with people doing similar things to what I am who did not go to any college at all. So it helps out to have those connections and have the experience from college, junior college or senior college, whatever it might be. But really, it just comes down to the skills that you have and the attitude and the ambition that you have as well. So.
And Will, since we're kind of on that topic of a degree, so let's say you have your position. Is there a position that maybe your goal would be to elevate to at some point in time, and perhaps that might require or prefer a specific degree?
Yep. So in this, I guess not necessarily. I think that my degree would be sufficient in that aspect. Being a small company, most of the newspapers similar to ourselves are small companies like this, and there aren't necessarily many positions higher than mine. Not to say that I joined at the top by any means, but I work on a commission basis, and so that's kind of the next topic or the next point that I was going to make. But the ceiling is endless. I mean, if you are ambitious and you work hard and you are successful, you can gain those customers and gain the increased salary as well. And so hard work really does pay off, and so it's all a commission-based system. And so keeping your current customers satisfied and happy is very important, and finding new ones is that way to further yourself in the company and further yourself through a salary way as well. So I guess in terms of benefits to the job, I'm not necessarily sure, but I mean, just worth mentioning, you do get full health and dental through our company, and a 401k with a match. The biggest benefit that's not necessarily concrete would be the flexible schedule. Like I said, we've got a busy season, January through April, but the rest of the year we kind of spend catching up from the busy season and then preparing for the next one. So that time of the year is a little bit more flexible. And I mean, as long as you stay on top of your office work, you can determine how you want to spend the rest of your schedule. So there's no set vacation days or anything along those lines. And there's certainly more than enough time to do other things you want to do, and which kind of ties back into I'm still certainly able to clip and fit cattle like I had growing up, and I've honestly almost increased the number that I do on an annual basis. And in addition to that, I joined forces with another publication as well, which is only lined up with the limousine breed. It's called Limousine 365. And that's another publication and website to check out if you're interested. But that job is solely selling the advertising, and with the flexibility of the Western Ag Reporter job, as long as everyone is happy, then that's more than fine by them to do both. And so very happy to have that opportunity and make a little bit additional income on the side as well. So in general, I guess I really love what I do. I enjoy it every single day. I mean, since I was young, I've been obsessed with livestock, and this is a great way for me to be involved and be a part of the industry every single day when I wake up. I mean, through my whole career, growing up in 4-H, doing all the fitting at the Minnesota State Fair, and rolling into all the clipping and fitting through my college years and in the U.S. and abroad. I mean, it's been a great experience, and it's all rolled into what I do today. I always just try to be enthusiastic and put your best foot forward at all times. You never know what loose ties will end up giving you the greatest opportunities down the road. So I guess that kind of wraps up all that I've got prepared. But if there's any questions at all, I'd be more than happy to hear them. So.
Man, that's so cool, Will. It really sounds like you've done a lot of traveling, and I love Travis kind of put together a summary of some of the key terms that you drove towards success. So thank you, Dr. Hoffman, for putting that in the chat box. Such good, terms to start to think about. And one of the things I was thinking about, as you're talking and whatnot, I often hear 4-Hers and youth and even kids in college, they come and they're like, well, I think I'm going to fail at it. I don't think I should start at doing something like that because I don't think I'll be good at it. And so is there anything that, maybe you initially, whether it was your fitting career or this ag reporter career, maybe initially you had some of those feelings like, I don't know if I can make that happen. What advice would you give to them when they start to kind of think or doubt themselves?
Yeah, well, certainly those thoughts are very common, and people who, it happens to everyone. It happens to me very often, and what I always tell myself is that, if somebody else thinks that you're good enough to do this, then you are good enough to do this, whether it be clipping on their animals or whether it be flying across the ocean to Australia. If they think that you're good enough, then you are. And so it's just, you have to, put that voice in your head and tell it, just be quiet and just do what you know how to do and keep going forward. And don't be afraid to try new things either. It's scary at first, certainly is. And working the ring at bull sales is a very scary thing to start doing. But once you do it for a while, it certainly becomes second nature. And there's a lot of things in this world that are like that. And so just try to reiterate to yourself an air of confidence and keep going forward, keep moving forward.
Man, that's really, really good. I love that. Kaden just put another question there, and we will be recording these just as an FYI. I will take some time to get those edited, but once they're edited, they show up on our YouTube extension channel for 4-H, and I just posted that link in there. So
I have a quick question for you, Will. Thank you for sharing all this great information and how you got there. One of the things you'd mentioned, sitting down and visiting with people, at the events and so forth. Have you always been a real outgoing, or did you have to do things to kind of help make yourself be comfortable in that kind of arena?
It's become an acquired skill, I think. So great question. Yeah, growing up, in high school, I was certainly a little bit on the quiet side, but 4-H especially brought me out of my shell in terms of just volunteering for different events on the county level, interacting with other 4-Hers and other adults. And going from there through college, being involved with AGR brought me into some very unique and situations outside of my comfort zone, and you just learn and develop that skill over time. So great question. I think there might often be quite a few younger folks listening who might be a little bit more on the quiet side, but I certainly was there myself earlier, and pushing myself to interact and to visit has really been very rewarding. And the thing is, if you don't open up at least a little bit to people, then they will never really learn anything about you, and you won't learn anything about them. So sometimes you have to throw the first comment out there or whatever it might be, start the conversation rolling. But once you do that, it certainly pays off and is rewarding by the end of it. So.
Thank you. That's some great advice, because I do think you're right there that sometimes you have to take a little bit of a chance and then let it go. So thank you for that response.
Right. You're welcome.
Thanks for asking that, Dean. That was good. So Caden was saying, with being very involved with the show industry, and it sounds like he also enjoys fitting and clipping. How would you recommend on getting connections and market your work of clipping and fitting?
Yep. Great question, Caden. And that is, so basically kind of how to broaden your range of people that you might be helping and people you might be working for. And honestly, what it amounted to for me is just fitting and clipping for anyone who asked at any point in time, just not being too particular about who it might be or how much you're getting paid. A lot of the time, starting out really might not get paid. And if you get hung up on how much you're getting paid, you might not get any opportunities at all. And anyway, once you start to snowball a little bit, then more people will certainly ask you. And it's really one of those things, with more experience is how you get better as well. And so never turn down any opportunity to get that experience, because even if they're not paying you, you're getting more experience and building your skills and improving your skills through that. And I mean, just the opportunities, it's just a sheer matter of numbers most of the time. And through high school and through middle school, I think maybe I fit on, I don't know, 50 or 100 total. I mean, not a ton. But then once I got to college, working for Jungles, they prepare 40 or 50 heifer calves every year, and every one of them gets fit. And it's just that repetition of practicing is how you really get better. And so, not that everyone has the chance to do something like that, but if there are any people in your area who might be having production sales or might be having an online sale here and there, just offering to help, reaching out to them, seeing if they need any help is a great way to start. And there's no harm in asking. The answer is always no if you don't ask. So you might have to go out of your comfort zone a little bit, but that would be my advice really, is ask around, and don't get too hung up on how much you're getting paid right away, and it all works out in the end. So
I love that, Will. I use that same phrase. The answer is always no until you ask, because if you don't ask it,
right.
you will never know. So I love
Yeah.
that. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming in. This is a no judgment zone. You ask those questions, and we love to feel them. So while we're waiting on those, I'm going to continue to shoot you some more questions unless anybody else wants to jump in here. So I love this. We actually got this idea from the very first round of webinar series that kicked us off from Royal Vista. What is your, if I were to say first impressions, what does that mean to you? Or like, how would you advocate that to our watching individuals and those listening in?
Right. Right. So, I mean, first impression, there's only one of them. That's why it's called a first impression. So, there's nothing revolutionary about my take on it, but you only get one chance, so you might as well make it count. And I mean, like I mentioned in when I was kind of talking, always putting your best foot forward. You never know who you're going to meet, or what. You only get one first impression, so you might as well always be acting as on your best behavior and putting your best foot forward. I mean, it's doing your best work at all times is important too. Like, to tie it back to kind of clipping and fitting, you're at a show, you're fitting on an animal, and it might not be the best one. You might know that it's going to go out there and get fifth in class or something, but that's no reason to do any less quality work, because there will be somebody around the ring watching, and they will say, "Oh, Will fit that leg or something like that, and whatever will fit that tail head, whatever it might be. And that could be their first impression of you. And even if the animal isn't there, or putting your best foot forward, putting your best effort in at all times is really important. So you never know what that first impression will be, or what someone's first impression of you is, because it's not always necessarily face to face, and people, there's a lot of ways to make a first impression, really. So.
I love that. So good. And I love that you brought your industry perspective into that, because you really never know who's watching. And that's, not just inside the ring, outside of the ring. And even as young adults, I think we don't capture that as well. So, you might be a professional there while you're clipping, and then, you might go out partying and might make a fool of yourself. And just remember that's not, if you're there to be professional. And so you just never know who you're going to connect with or who's going to see you. So that's a really valuable skill in just the mindset to remember wherever you are.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I have another question for you. So do you currently live in Montana then?
No, I currently live in Minnesota. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes I hear from youth and college individuals that it's kind of a scary thing to move outside of the town, but definitely outside of the state that you're comfortable with. So can you kind of share your ideas on, was it hard for you to move to a new place, make friends? Like, what was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know specifically, but I'm on the road most of the time anyway, so it's not like I honestly spend a whole lot of time around home. But I guess to that note, the reason that I picked North Dakota State is that it is outside of my home state, and it is a different group of people. And so I guess my perspective on that would be to push yourself outside your comfort zone when you have the opportunity to do so. I certainly thought about going to a college that was in state, and I would have known quite a few more people that were there. But going outside of my comfort zone, going to North Dakota State, that was certainly one of the best decisions I've ever made, as it put me outside of my circle of friends and acquaintances, and put me in a different circle. And you, I mean, people say it all the time, but you take after those people that you surround yourself with. And so surrounding myself with agricultural folks at North Dakota State who are very passionate about cattle ranching, showing cattle, things like that, certainly gave me the opportunities to where I am today. And being at the Western Ag Reporter, I surround myself with people who are involved with livestock sales and professionals on that, and those are opening up new possibilities and opportunities down the road as well. So I wouldn't say I'm an expert on I guess that question, but it's certainly important to get outside of your comfort zone, at some point in your life, and just see how it goes and see what happens. There's always possibility to move back home if you ever want to. And so, yeah.
I'd say that was some pretty expert advice. I think that we need to challenge ourselves, and you really hit the nail on the head with that. So great advice. Right. What other questions we got out there? Not seeing anything come through the chat quite yet. Okay, so a little bit off topic, but still kind of on topic. So obviously, you have quite a few skill sets that you're involved with, whether it's fitting, whether you're a reporter. What about like self-care outside? So like, how are you doing when you're not focused on anything work related? What are some of the things that you would say to keep yourself still motivated, still in the game, healthy, stuff like that, especially right now during COVID, craziness, like what
Mhm.
advice would you give to some of the youth out there?
Right. Well, it's certainly important to take care of yourself and take care of your health. As someone who travels quite a bit, watching what I eat is important. Not always eating fast food, although that doesn't always work out. But outside of my job, I do enjoy getting outdoors. Whether it be going for a walk, a bike ride, or golfing, or something like that. I mean, it's important, and you can do those things even through the you can do some of those things if you walk inside or something through the winter here in Minnesota and North Dakota. But just getting moving is very important. Getting that heart rate up and just staying healthy is a great way to keep my mind clear and focused on my work roles and responsibilities. At this point in my life, I may be a little bit guilty of spending too much time on work, but at the same time, you've got to have that balance and take time to care for yourself as well. So.
I love that, Will. Thank you so much. I think that's kind of what I was getting at. There's people like myself included who often spend, all their waking hours, especially with being COVID. And you said you can work from home right now. It might be really easy to work until midnight on specific things because the computers are right in front of you. And so,
right.
Making sure you have that healthy balance is key. And even as a student, those of you that are watching, kind of the same thing, you can study all night long, but it's definitely important to get out and do something for yourself as well. So Very cool. All right. Any other questions out there? Been having some really good questions come through the chat. Thank you, Caden, for asking those.
Yep. Thank you, Caden. Very much appreciated. So if anyone has any other questions at all, if not now, if you have them at any point in time, my email is there in the chat, will@westernagreporter.com. I'm surprised I was able to talk for this long. So I hope everyone gained something from it, and I appreciate the opportunity very, very much so. So very happy to help out.
Thank you so much, Will, for your valuable time and a lot of great wisdom bombs dropped here. So we really appreciate what you said, and I hope others will listen to this again and kind of take note of all those key things that you talked about. So thank you for your time and wisdom that you shared.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, we'll let Will finish the rest of his evening. Thank you to my colleagues for jumping on here and helping me out. And thank you all for coming and joining us tonight. We sure appreciate you guys.